Hello, everyone. It's been a while, I know, but I'm here with an update. Since the last video I uploaded, I neglected to, or I kept out um, that um, I've been going through a combination of a flare up or new symptoms that I have not experienced in the past. They started with um, around April of last year. I started noticing a gradual drop in weight. I'm typically, when I'm in remission, healthy as can be, eating well, I'm between 183 and 185 pounds. And the major indicator for me that alarmed me was my clothes, the size of my clothes. So for as long as I can remember, I'm 183 to 185. My size is medium. My suit size is 40 regular. My pants are 32 waist, 32 inseam. And starting around April of 2023, I noticed my pants are loose. I need a belt. And fast forward to June. So what I did is I went and got one of those digital scales that tracks your weight and body fat and mass index with a smart app on your phone. It was the Wise Bluetooth scale because it's cheap, because it works on Bluetooth only, but it's pretty usable. It's very useful. So, anyways, I started the weight tracking in April, and according to the app, by then I had dropped from the 180s to 160. As of April 16th of 2023, I was 162.6 pounds. But honestly, I was kind of okay with it because I'm getting older. I was getting closer to 50. A little bit of a muffin top, even though I have been historically athletic. I maintained either a combination of swimming, playing squash, snowboarding, but that was a few years back, skydiving, um, swimming with the sharks. I'm an adventure junkie. So I was okay with it when my pants were loose, and I continued to wear my medium size and 32 waist pants. Around June, so by June I was 159. By July I was still 159, rotating or swinging between 160 to 159, 161, 159. And then in August I dropped to 152.9, and that's when I was coming out of a bad place, mentally and psychologically. I'm going to address this. Hopefully, this energy that I have today will aid me and help me and continue to make more frequent content, because that is really what I want to do. And that's my objective, that's my passion. And apologize for the, 4 or 5 weeks that have passed since the last content upload. But I was in a bad place, and I'll get to that now. So in August, a friend of mine, a couple of friends actually, sort of pushed me to break that cycle that I've been in, where my physical state, the way I felt physically, um, affects um, my ability, my desire to socialize, reach out to people, continue my online activities, continue my social activities, because for any of you out there who has either an IBD type of condition like Crohn's or colitis, or suffer from any other condition that makes you feel icky, makes you feel like crap, a significant amount of time of your day and week and month, um, you start, in my case, I get tired of explaining to people that actually care about me and are curious and they want to have me around more. So explaining to them the nature of my physical state, um, after a while that wears off and it actually wears on you. So I personally am the kind of guy who is extremely transparent. So if you ask me, how are you doing? You better be ready to listen to a 20-minute detailed, highly articulate, deeply backed by scientific data and statistics. What am I going through and why I feel the way I feel. Um, but if you don't have the attention span, so don't ask. And that's where I go wrong. Most people listen, but they remember 2% of what I say. And when it happens again, because it's a closed cycle, they ask the same question again, and I have to explain all over again. So my personality type, I shut down. I start pushing these people away by basically not engaging with them, not ignoring them, but also not engaging with them. I developed this black box up here in my head where I learned how to stay isolated, alone for a few days, then a week, and then 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks. To sum it up, there would be a period of 10, 12, 14 days that would pass where I wouldn't use my voice box. Literally, other than my cat, very seldom I would say, Monkey, come here, I love you. Besides that, I don't answer phone calls, I don't answer text messages. I only push myself to leave the house when I need to leave the house, to go get stuff, something critical. Um, so during that time, there were two people that were staying in touch, and they know based on prior conversations that I'm in a bad place. My physical condition is um, pushing me towards isolating again. So they continue to text me and try to call, text me and try to call, and because I care about these people, these two individuals mainly, and of course that doesn't include my daughter, who lives here and checks on me periodically. These are the three people that I was willing, or am willing in these, when I'm in that mental state, to actually respond to, and sometimes, very seldom, reach out to. So I casually told them that, the weight loss, I'm lethargic, I'm fatigued. Of course, the pain, abdominal cramping, pain, and loss of appetite, and therefore I'm eating a lot less, um, are making me antisocial during that period, given that I used to be a social butterfly. Anyway, so they urged me to break the cycle. Come on, Tarek, get out of it. And I did. So around August 10th or so, I was around 152.9, and I booked a trip to Europe, thinking, um, after having read two books on CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which was recommended to me by my pain specialist. Um, I wanted to, urge and force myself to push through the pain and discomfort. And with the support of these two friends and my daughter, um, I went ahead and did it. So I booked a trip to Europe, and it was one way. So I didn't know when I was coming back, and I kind of told my daughter that, you know, I'm gonna go and just hop from one town, one city, one country to another, uh, um, and see if it will um, help me change this dark view on life at the time. And I did. So August 23rd, I land in the first city in Europe. And then 4 days later, I get on a plane and go to Greece. I stay in Athens for 6 days, 5 or 6 days, and the hotel recommends that I go to Mykonos. It's an island, one of the Greek islands. So I booked a trip there. I stayed there for 5 days, no, 7 days, either 6 or 7 days, and then went back to Greece. No, I'm sorry, to Athens. Oh, so while I was in Mykonos, of course, I got a Crohn's flare-up, and I had to go to the Greek-free public health system clinic. And that was an experience. I wish I had the foresight and the equipment to video. Um, the service was 50-50, and I'll tell you why now. They um, admitted me rather quickly. It took like 20-25 minutes. They put me on a bed, but the bed had the previous person's blood still on the bed. Which, to me, having lived in the Middle East, in Syria, and spent time in Beirut, of course in Doha, Qatar, that wasn't something, strange. It was strange, but it was like, oh, this is Middle East, and Greece is more of a Middle Eastern country than a European country. But anyways, so they give me an IV. They give me IV Tylenol. And I keep telling them, I know what I'm going through. I know the protocol. So the first doctor comes, the second doctor comes. They do an x-ray of my abdomen. Sure enough, they find an area of inflammation, as indicated by thickening in the intestinal wall. And throughout that whole time, the pain wasn't managed. So they had to contact the surgical unit to get a sub-Q, not an intravenous, but a sub-Q morphine injection just to shut the pain down. And then they discharged me with some prescription antidiarrheal and not anticonvulsant, but antispasmodic, and a painkiller I never heard of before until Europe, called tramadol, which turned out to be very mild but effective at the same time. And I was better the next day, hopped back to Athens. I spent 3 more days in Athens, and I think on September 1st of 2023, I landed in London, Heathrow, and I stayed in London for 6 or 7 days. I had already scheduled an appointment with a highly regarded specialist. So, based on my research, London, specifically the city of London, has the top IBD, Crohn's and colitis specialist and professor. So he's a practicing MD, gastroenterologist, and a professor named Peter Irving. And I really wanted to see Peter. When I contacted his office, they indicated that the soonest would have been September 25th of 2023, and I didn't want to wait that long. I was starting to get anxious, missing my home, missing my cat, missing my daughter. So I took the next best thing, Dr. Adam Humphreys, who's, I believe, Dr. Irving's, Peter Irving's student, pupil, and he was ranked like second to Peter Irving in the UK. And I went and saw Dr. Humphreys, and I had my doctor from the US send him all my medical records, like all 30 years of medical records. Long story short, it was a good visit. I learned I learned a bit more about how IBD and Crohn's disease specifically is addressed in Europe and in United Kingdom specifically, but overall Europe, which is very different than here. Oh, I forgot this. So I forgot to mention one thing. I was on prednisone, which was prescribed to me by the free clinic in Greece, in Mykonos. So what I learned in London is that they deal with someone like me who's had surgeries, and now quality of life is impacted by the various symptoms, which are a direct result of two things: either Crohn's flare-up and the surgical side effects, or just the surgical side effects themselves. When you lose so much of your intestinal tract or intestinal tissue and certain organs like the cecum, you are going to develop additional chronic conditions like short bowel syndrome, malabsorption, malnutrition, chronic diarrhea, and of course, chronic pain. What Dr. Humphreys advised me to do is seek an alternative, but not homeopathic or anything, but alternative methods addressing my condition or symptoms without the old typical protocol of prednisone, which is corticosteroids, and highly potent painkillers like oxycodone and Dilaudid, which is hydromorphone, and that's where tramadol comes into the picture. So he said even tramadol is only needed as is only used as needed. Here's where the pain management issue, plays a significant role, but I'll get to that in a minute. So what he advised me, and he wrote a letter to a report to give to my gastroenterologist here in the States, is that see a dietitian, see if you can focus on the diet aspect of your symptoms and your condition. So I came back, and let me take a small tangent here on pain management and pain medication. Pain medication is prescribed in the US under extremely stringent guidelines. A lot of people abuse it. It's caused extreme amount of pain and, as emotional pain due to death and overdose incidents, because people are using it recreationally. Apparently, you get high from it. Now, I personally wish, I keep telling the doctors, oh, I wish it would get me high because I might feel better than this miserable state of mind and body that I've been in for the past almost 10 years since, since 2000, the last surgery, the last open abdomen surgery in 2014. Things have just gone downhill for me. And then there was January 2020, and then I just got discharged yesterday, January 2024. So they were prescribing, like they started me off on methadone. Why? Because methadone has a long half-life, so you don't have to take as much. And a side effect of painkillers, opioids, is constipation, which was my objective. Because a major contributor to my pain was actually the chronic diarrhea. I used to be kind of shy and sort of not encouraged to talk about, or not enthusiastic to talk about this aspect. But now, hey, it is what it is. Chronic diarrhea developed after the second surgery, and we're talking 7 to 9 times a day. Whatever you eat right now, it's coming out. Sometimes as short as 15 minutes, sometimes, or on average, 25 to 35 minutes. And that's if you don't watch what you eat, if you don't learn just the basics about diet and nutrition, and experiment to find out, to find what your body is comfortable with. So that's another video I'll make about how I went through discovering what foods I'm comfortable with. I came back having lost even more weight on that trip. And now, before the trip, I had to buy clothes. So I bought 2 pairs of jeans that were 30. Remember, I used to be a 32 inseam, 32 waist. Now I'm down to 30 waist, 32 inseam. And when I arrived September, I forgot, 6th or 6th, no, it must have been 16th, I think. I was down to 29. I had to go get different pants, and I started noticing that my medium-sized clothes were loose, like very loose. I tried a suit, one of my favorite suits, and I could wrap it around me 1.5 times. So I started keeping track of my weight, and by September, I was 147. September 17, 152. September 24, 147. Now into October, I started going back up a little bit, 148, and then 150, and then 152. And then October 12th, 148, 147, 146. October 26, 142. November 141, and December, by December 20th, I was down to 138.8 pounds. And when I would look at myself in the mirror after a shower, I typically, despite all the symptoms and despite my, the what I call the daily struggles and the misery that I have to push through, just to try and enjoy whatever I can of the day. When I saw myself in my reflection in that mirror, I got worried. I saw a very frail 50-year-old that looks like 80-year-old. My jawline has never been this defined. My waist, when I would pull the skin, there's just no fat. And having some notion of physiology, I was afraid that now my body's starting to eat into the muscle. So I alerted my gastroenterologist and my primary care physician and my pain specialist. And we started a round of lab works. So I asked my psychiatrist for the most comprehensive blood work that can be done, because she's performed one like 8 years ago. And she sent me the list. I forwarded it to my gastroenterologist. He ordered the blood work. And then we had to do more lab works like urine and stool samples and a CAT scan. When the results came out, on paper, I was very healthy, except I was magnesium deficient, phosphorus deficient, B12, borderline. So the US scale on B12 is from 208 to 4 something. Compared to the European is minimum 400 or 4 something. And my number came at 211. So I was borderline B12 deficient. B7, I was also borderline, and B1. I'm not sure about B3. So I went and met my gastroenterologist in person at his office, and we came up with a plan. First, get a B12 shot. Second, get the CAT scan. Third, see a dietitian or a nutritionist. And that's where the opinion from Dr. Humphreys in the UK played a role. My gastro here agreed. We've done everything. I'm already on biologic. I'm on Entyvio. We had a colonoscopy and upper endoscopy probably 8 months earlier. And things looked under control. There was mild inflammation, but it didn't explain the symptoms. So I met with the nutritionist, and the nutritionist listened to my daily diet and my routine and what I can eat and what I can't eat, which is all based on my own personal experiments. To my surprise, she didn't try to put me on a diet, but rather she said, looking at your blood work results and what you explained, I would admit you to the hospital. And I was wondering why. And she said, in fear of something called refeeding syndrome. Now, refeeding syndrome, later I learned, is when someone goes through some acute medical condition that results, maybe amongst other things, but severe weight loss, like 20 plus pounds unintended, which is what's happening to me. And then they start eating again. The body doesn't, an imbalance in electrolytes and other vital minerals like magnesium and phosphorus, due to the low levels and the deficiencies, basically, the body doesn't react the way it's supposed to and start absorbing all the stuff that it needs. And therefore, the refeeding does not remedy the issue. But in order for me to be admitted, she needs to have the gastroenterologist review the report. Fine. He reviews the report. He's, preemptive. Not preemptive. I think he was hesitant about admitting me to the hospital before making his due diligence. So he had me do another round of blood work and another round of stool and blood and urine samples. And then they started contacting me saying, we'd like you to go to the emergency department, the ER, and have them check you out there, and maybe they'll find a reason to admit you and perform an upper endoscopy or a colonoscopy and an upper endoscopy again. And I've been to hospitals just way too many times. And given how isolated I am, I didn't want to go alone. I didn't want to be alone. And coincidentally, an ice storm hit Portland. So the day I was supposed to go, it started icing everywhere, and my transportation was shut for 9 days, so I couldn't go, even though they kept calling and saying, "Did you go? Did you go?" Until I started ignoring them, and then after everything melted, around the 19th of January, I was very reluctant to go in alone. I just needed that, hand that I can hold while I'm in there. So I reached out to my daughter. She was out of town for an emergency, and she was going to be gone for about a week. So I reached out to my best friend here, and she hounded me until I relented and gave in. And on the 24th, we went in. We arrived at 7. I didn't go up to my assigned bed and room until 2:20 a.m. I'm going to put a video of what happened in the ER, because that was a miserable, humiliating, sort of comedic episode that I've never experienced in the past. Not at this hospital. Mind you, I've had all my surgeries, all my emergency trips, all my procedures at this hospital. So I feel like that's my hospital. That's my place, and I'm proud of it. And it was miserable. Shame on you, Providence St. Vincent. Anyways, I get admitted, and I just came home yesterday. Nothing obvious. However, during the colonoscopy and upper endoscopy that was performed just 2 days ago, they took a lot of biopsies, more than they usually do, because they're thinking there might be something not showing up on the CAT scan, not visibly obvious with the camera that's connected to the scope, potentially hidden under the surface of the intestinal tissue. So they gave me 3 options. One is to continue, try to feed myself, chew and eat, and see if going, upping my diet from that 1 meal a day and snacking throughout the day, basically force myself to eat as much as I can before I start getting nauseous. um, supplemented by a medication called Zofran, which is usually an antacid, but scientifically, the data shows that it also causes constipation, or at least a slowing in the intestinal um, um, activity. And because there's an absorption issue, I had previously asked my pain specialist to take me off of tramadol and all that other stuff and switch me to buprenorphine or buprenorphine, however you want to pronounce it, which is it's an opioid analgesic, but it's used in brands like Subutex and Suboxone, and those are the medications they use to help heroin and other opioid addicts wean off. Why? Because buprenorphine constipates, and I've had good success with it as far as the constipation, but it wasn't as effective with the pain. But I'm having to live through it and push through it. It's yeah, I gotta pick my battles. So here we are. Today, for some reason, I woke up a lot more energetic than the past 3 weeks, or I don't know how long it's been. Why? I don't know. Will it continue? Will it persist? I don't know. I can't promise you. But I at least now have a support system. So in addition to all the doctors, the medical staff and physicians, I have key individuals in my life who are, per their choice, by their choice, they want help see me come out on the other side more positive, healthy, which is probably one of the main ingredients that I had needed. I'll talk more about that I'm going to upload a video about the correlation, cause and effect between body and mind. And this is not a spiritual discussion. It's physiological, biological versus psychological and mental, based on my own subjective experience. And I will definitely, as always, try to stick to supplementing my argument with objective data and scientific data. So this was just a quick update. I hope I didn't take too much of your time. I hope you find it useful. I urge you and I plead with anyone who can relate, understands, has been through anything similar to what I have experienced and I continue to struggle through, please reach out. I would love to talk and hear from you. And if you want to do it on air or record it, I would appreciate that. But if not, you can, we can Skype, we can FaceTime, we can whatever. I just want to connect to others who have been there, because with all respect and absolutely no disrespect to my friends, my acquaintances, my people who watch this by accident probably, unless you've been there, it's hard to genuinely understand and empathize. And there's a difference, obviously, between empathy and sympathy. I'm not gonna I don't want sympathy, and what am I going to do with sympathy? The reason I am airing my personal information and personal struggle, honestly, is to encourage others to do the same, because I found it therapeutic. Not everybody will understand. I know that. I've already been accused by some people whom I thought were acquaintances online that you're just doing that to seek sympathy from women. Well, I'm not sure seeking that sympathy from women towards someone as sick as I am going to help. No one wants to be with someone this sick. So that was a stupid argument in my opinion, but I respect their observation or their perspective. I am genuinely, I want to promote what IBD, and specifically in my case Crohn's disease, can do by giving my subjective testimony, my personal perspective, so that others maybe tell their story, or notice that part of the reason that I am fully aware of what's going on and on top of it is that I took the time to educate myself on the science of the disease. And it's not just the IBD, Crohn's, it's IBD. So I read all the literature and as many scientific studies I can understand on Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. There was one that spoke about multiple colitis, including something called spastic colitis, but I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I just understand the general synopsis or general narrative of it. Lesson learned: if you don't become your own advocate for your own problems, whether it's a medical issue, mental, psychological, heck, even financial, emotional, whatever, if you don't take charge, by charge I mean arming yourself with knowledge that is based on scientific methodology, empirical data. At this point, I think naturopathic and holistic approaches are not, ineffective, but they're not based in any scientific truth or backed by objective scientific data. And the reason I didn't say they were a fraud is some of them work for multiple reasons, but they are short-term. So it's either a placebo effect or, remember, conditions, Crohn's disease, they're very individual diseases or conditions. So here's a silly example. I can eat apples, but they have to be peeled, because I learned that the inside is a type of fiber that is called soluble fiber, meaning when it hits your stomach, it will dissolve and liquefy, while the peel is called insoluble fiber. So it will continue to be solid. There will continue to be strains of solid material, and that is going to have to make its way through your intestines. So if you have Crohn's and you have areas that are going through mild, severe, moderate inflammation, which means there is narrowing in the intestinal tract. You're gonna feel the pain. You're gonna scar the tissue because you're pushing more than just liquefied food through it. So now, in holistic or naturopathic approaches, you might land on something that happens to be by just sheer coincidence, not by planning, to be an insoluble, or I'm sorry, a soluble type of fiber in a pill or in a tablet or in a supplement. And it helps you, but it helps you in one specific way. It's not broad. And that's where, again, knowing the science, knowing the literature, and the research on your condition is very important. Because even if something works while others don't, I would like to know, why did that work but those didn't work? If you go back to Western medicine, I've tried the very first one. It'll come back to me. The very first one, and I developed anaphylactic shock to it, and I ended up in the hospital. And then I tried Humira, and then I tried Cimzia, and my body kept developing antibodies to these biologics until we landed on Entyvio, and I've been on it now altogether about 4.5 years. I should have been on it longer, but due to certain situations or conditions and events in my life, I had to quit for about a year. But now I've been on it consistently for 2+ years, maybe 2.5 years, and it's doing its job. Now, it doesn't address the other symptoms, which were not caused directly by Crohn's, and those are post-surgical conditions. When they take out 90% of your terminal ileum and your cecum, well, guess what? You lost a valve in the cecum, and you lost a significant amount of tissue that reabsorbs a lot of the bile that is produced during the digestive process by the pancreas, the liver, the gallbladder, the spleen. And so now, when things get towards the end of your small intestines, the cecum, which looks like an elbow, and that one is not soft tissue, that's a muscle. It opens and closes, regulating the flow of that liquid, now waste, into the colon. So if you're like me, you don't have cecum, and you don't have the majority of your terminal ileum, which is the last segment of the small intestines, where that reabsorption of most of the liquid bile, well, you don't have those. Now they're going to gush to your colon, and you're going to feel the urge to hit the toilet 10 to 15, 25 to 35 minutes after you eat anything. I'll discuss this in further details in another video. But long story short, I am hoping we can build a support community through the Crohn's Patient podcast and YouTube channel, where people are encouraged because they find this a safe space to share their struggles, their pain, their misery, their successes, and learn from each other. I don't know everything. I try to keep educating myself. This basically took over my life. But as you grow older, you learn, or you realize that, oh, there's a lot more to learn, a lot more to understand. Um, there is no stopping to advancing your knowledge. And I'm a science geek. I'm a nerd. So I'd like to facilitate this environment and get your help for the help of everybody inflicted with these horrible conditions. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry. Oh, I had 15 minutes. I apologize for taking so much of your time. I'm starting a Patreon for this channel, The Crohn's Patient. I don't know yet how to use it. The whole point is there's a lot of equipment and stuff that needs to be put together, and I have a lot of it. I'm a software engineer geek, but I've been in retirement for 10 years now because of that last surgery in March of 2014. After it, I could never go back to work. So if you feel generous and believe in the cause, please support us. And if you have any ideas on how to make this easier for us to reach people and for people to interact, please also reach out to me. I don't worry too much about my privacy issues. So my email is there, and there's a phone. I'll have the phone number where I can be contacted as well. And please, no scams, no fakes. No. I'm not the right target for it. Trust me. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Take care, and I will do my best to upload the next video as soon as I can. Peace.